Hey folks, welcome back to the homestead here at Mark Kelly Farm. We finally got some good, heavy, wet snow, and we definitely needed the moisture. But we're not going to be working outside today because there's not much to do out here in the snow. But there is a project in the shop we've been needing to get to, so come along and we'll show you what it is. So this is our next project right here. This needs to be done in the next couple days, which will not be a problem. We have our friends Dave and Stephanie coming from Tennessee, and we picked this up for him. He saw this on our junk jaunt video when we were out and about and got a hold of me because I guess his grandfather had one of these and he's got fond memories of it. What it is, it's a grinding wheel, and you pedal it as you sit in this seat right here, and it spins the wheel, and you can grind axes or knives or whatever you want to grind. You can see this wheel's got a couple chips out of it, but that's no big deal. But we have some straightening we need to do. We have to straighten these arms up. I'll pull these off and straighten them up on the end. We'll get them nice and straight. We have the front guard here that's all bent up, probably from being knocked over and stuff. We'll straighten it out. It's got to be reconnected over here. And then we're missing the cranks that go on here on these square shafts. We're going to make some cranks to go on there. And then we're also missing the connecting rods that go from the crank to the pedal levers down here. So we'll be making 2 connecting rods. And then this seat I'm going to take off and kind of clean it up a little bit because it's got some barnacles on it that I want to get rid of. We'll put it on the wire wheel, but I know you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to leave the patina, but that one's a little too patinaed. We need to, it'll rust back when it sits outside. I'm pretty sure this will sit outside. So. But that's what we got to do. We have to bend this back straight here a little bit, and then we have to straighten out these brackets as well. But shouldn't take much. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to get our pedal brackets off, and we'll get those straight. So this thing's jacked up pretty good. It looks like what we're going to have to do is this rod that goes through here, there's no nut or anything on it. It's got a big flat head on this side. This side's just been mushroomed over. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to cut this little mushroom off here so we can pull this pin out. It's got a little tiny bend in it. We'll take out while we have it out. But that's the only way to get this loose, because this arm here, I believe, is supposed to be way over here, like this one is. And then this little clip here kind of slides back and forth. It has to be back here to hold this together to keep these from spreading out. And that one's way up there. So let's get this pin out. So this is how we figured out it goes. There was a little clip here in the middle that held these two together. And then we got this rod out. There were some threads on this rod before, but they're pretty well bunged up. So what we'll do is we'll put a washer on here, and then we'll probably drill and put a cotter key in that, or just spot weld the washer on there just to keep this from coming off. But the ends of them here are going to need links. So we put bolts in here. One of them had like a rivet, but the connector rods were probably broken off. They probably wore out. So we're going to do something a little bit different to keep them from wearing out so much. And then I think our next operation is we're going to make our cranks that go up here. You can see this is a square thread, but it's pretty well bunged up. We're going to have to take our grinder and square this back off. And then we have an idea to make our crank without having to go crazy making a square hole. Once this shaft is squared up, it'll be a 1/2 inch square is what it started out to be. Now, over in my impact socket set, I have some old metric sockets, and these little tiny ones I'm absolutely never going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this square base, which is a 1/2 inch, to create this part of the crank. We will cut this piece off, and then where this hole is, we're going to put set screws in these holes so we can tighten them down. We'll make a corresponding divot on this square for that set screw to go in. So it's got something to go into and it's not just a flat surface that's going to work loose. And then this will be a real good crank for that once we get this cut off, and we'll weld an arm on here for the linkage to connect to. The ones that I've seen are about 3 inches long. So this one will go this way, and then the one on the other side will be going the other direction. So we have opposing cranks. And then these pedals down here, one will be up, one will be down, and it'll rotate back and forth as this thing gets pedaled. So we're going to get these cut off, and we'll figure out what size hole to drill for the set screws that we're going to make. Now, what are the chances that hole in that socket was perfect size for this 1/4-20 tap to tap that hole out to 1/4-20? So it looks like we're having 1/4-inch set screws. All right, we've cut the end of our socket off 7/8 of an inch long, and then we tapped it like we showed you with 1/4-20 threads. We've taken our screw or our bolt and we sanded it until it got a point on the end, and then we marked on our shaft where that would go, and then we drilled a 1/4-20 hole about 1/4 inch in. So when that thing seats, that bolt will actually go into that indentation on the shaft, and it'll hold it nice and tight, and you can see it right here. So all we have left now on these is to make our crank lever here, about 3 inches long, but we're going to check that to make sure how much travel we need. I'll do some looking on the internet, and I'm pretty sure I looked before and these were about 3 inches center to center. So we'll get those crank arms made, we can get those welded on, and then we can mount these and make them tight. Got into our scrap pile, we found a piece of flat bar, good size, heavy flat bar, and it's wide enough where we can get a good weld around that socket. So these holes are actually the right size too, they're 3/8 of an inch. So we're gonna go figure out what 3 inches center to center is. We'll add whatever we need to go around that socket and get a good weld. And then we'll cut this to where we got the same distance here, here, and here. And then we'll round this corner off here. And that'll be our arms. And then we can do the same thing with this hole down here. We'll cut it wherever we need to be. And then we'll get those welded on. Got our cranks made. You can see we got them running opposite of each other. Got our set screws on there. Everything's tightened up. So now we need to make our connecting rod from here to here. I've got a 3-inch standing belt under there just to hold that up. Figured that will be the bottom of our stroke. And then at the bottom of our stroke, this will be like this. So we measured center to center, and it'll be 22.5 inches. And then we'll do that on both sides. Both connecting rods will be equal in length. All right, we made this out of some 1/2-inch pipe, so it was a little stiffer, because if we would have used flat bar, it would want to bend around. So you can see we're working here. That's how she works. We need to get longer bolts for up here, and then we also need to get nylon locking nuts for those. That way they don't spin off, because you can't make them tight. So we'll get a little bit longer bolts. We'll put nylon locking nut on it. And then if we wanted to do it more period specific, we would probably round these off and then just use a flat washer and put a cotter pin in here. But I think we can modernize it just a little bit. Won't hurt nothing. But that's what she looks like in working order. We're going to give it up for tonight because it's getting dark. So tomorrow we still got to fix our guard here, which won't be a problem. And then we need to figure out what holds this up. If it's just tightened up, you would think there would be something to hold that up. But we'll straighten this tomorrow, and we'll clean up some of the barnacles off of this seat. And then after we get the correct bolts, this thing will be race ready. All right, folks, it's been a few days, but we're back out in the shop. I got some longer bolts for our grinding wheel here, so everything spins a lot nicer now. Works good. So we've got all of this straightened out. We've got all of this straightened out. We've got everything put together. Now, the only thing I'm not digging is this here, how squared off it is. So I think I'm going to pull my cranks off. We're going to round these corners, and then we may taper down to this smaller hole here maybe to get some of this off, but we'll see about that when we take it off. So we'll come back after we get that done and see if it looks any better. All right, folks, we got her all wrapped up. You can see these crank arms, don't they look a lot better rounded like that? They look a lot more realistic, like they belong. But we're all good. And the owner of it says he doesn't want this seat touched. He wants it just like it is. He likes the patina. So I got an axe to grind with you folks. Got her all loaded up and it's headed to Tennessee. All done. All right, folks, we hope you enjoyed that little restoration project as much as I did. Really love doing that. But I got some canning I need to do in the house, which we'll make another video on. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy. Cat says goodbye. We love you guys. Catch you on the next video here at Markelly Farm. We hope you stick around.